Hey everybody, this is Atesh, and in this episode of Making Modern Metal Composition Essentials, we're talking about a concept I like to call riding the emotion. For those who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Atesh, and I make videos related to composition and production. You can check out my other videos for more. Now let's talk about this episode's topic, riding the emotion. Honestly, I wasn't sure how to categorize this video. Is it gonna go under production? Is it gonna go under composition? I think it's a little closer to composition in its core. But you can also think of this as a crossover episode. I think most times composition and production go hand in hand so much anyways. So what is riding the emotion? It's simply guiding your audience's emotions and feelings as they're listening to your song. Why is this important? Because as much as I like the new era of listening to music, where we have infinite amounts of music at our disposal, it is a very fast-paced listening experience, meaning it's so easy to hit skip. Our goal with this episode is to make our listener not hit that skip button. To that goal, I think there are two main things to consider. The first one is the sound. I mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes, but shortly, the sound is very important and very forefront these days. But we are not talking about sound in this episode. In this episode, we're focusing on how we approach things in a more technical way. It's more about what to do with your guitar line than how your guitar should sound like. Here are 4 things that we're going to talk about: Climactic Approach, Question and Answer, Ambiguity, and contrast. Of course, there are many more techniques that you can use, but I think these 4 would be a good addition to the ones I talked about in the previous Making Modern Metal Composition Essentials video called Expanding Ideas. And of course, these don't only apply to modern metal, these apply to all sorts of genres. Now, let's talk about the climactic approach. This is a formula I've been following for some time. Not in everything I do, but a good chunk of it, I guess. The idea of climactic approach is actually pretty simple. You start from 0, you build up to 100. One thing to remember is that going from 0 to 100 is not a straight line. You don't go in increments like 0, 10, 20, 30 and build up to 100 like that. There has to be ups and downs. There are levels of intensity that you might be comfortable to work with. And when I say intensity, I'm not talking about dynamics or how intense one player plays. It's very common in songs for the bridge or pre-chorus part to be really tense in terms of playing and then relax and open up during the chorus. Now the player's playing might relax, but the instrumentation and voicings expand. Chorus hits and everything glues together better, everything sounds wider, everything sounds more open, there's more stuff coming out of your speakers. For the sake of the argument, let's think of a song in a form of a diagram. Let's say this is the form we're working on. Intro, followed by a main riff, which leads into a verse, then a pre-chorus, into a chorus, maybe a solo, back to the main riff, and again, verse, which could be more intense or shorter or longer this time, followed by a pre-chorus, also could be more intense or shorter or longer this time, another chorus, and outro. It makes total sense to start with a calmer, less intense intro, maybe even fade it in. Then we're gonna hit with the main riff. Now, there has to be a big difference between the intro and the main riff. So if my intro, for example, is in the intensity of 0 to 30, then my main riff should hit at like 75. Then drop to 50-ish for the verse, 60, 70 for pre-chorus, and 75 to 90 roughly for the chorus. Now, something else that's common is to drop to 0 to 30 intensity during one of the parts, in the second chorus, for example. Now, even if I hit the chorus at like 90, there's some more space to fill, but we are saving that for the last chorus and the outro. One thing we can do to achieve this sort of effect is to keep adding things with every new repeating part. For example, if my first verse has a guitar line, in the repetition I can add a synth line on top. And depending on structure and the song, I can work with a shorter or longer pre-chorus or verse in the second run. And obviously the same applies for the pre-chorus and chorus. You keep adding things each time. So your full intensity chorus comes in the end. It's still blast chorus. So the other choruses should have a little less intensity. You can think of this from the producer's point of view as well. Maybe you have your full chorus in the composition process, but then in the production process, you might pick and choose what to include or like what to take out from the first two choruses, for example. For the outro part, we use everything. It could be an extra vocal line, it could be overlapping guitars, counterpoint melodies, everything. But this should also be the last part from the audience's point of view as well. They are expecting a resolve at this point. Things are so intense that it's gonna explode any second, and once it does, the audience will be happy and it will be the end of the song. So that's Climactic Approach. Here's an example. Hexes by Tesseract. Well, this one doesn't really fully follow the diagram we mentioned, but it has a slow build-up, calm beginning, and the differences in the choruses. The first chorus is pretty calm, but the second one is full on. And this is also a good example of an intense outro. You can hear the layers of vocals in a more counterpoint fashion. I think Climactic Approach is a very powerful tool. So by using this approach, we always leave in some room for the listener's curiosity. We harvest the drama. By adding things as we go, we take the audience to this journey with us. They feel like these ideas resolve a bit, but not really fully. And the next time they hear this idea, there's more to the idea. Thus, the listener stays curious to see what's gonna come. They start thinking or feeling that until the song ends, more ideas will come, or the ideas will get more intense. So they stick around and not hit skip. Now let's talk about the question and answer. This is also a very powerful tool to have. The name is pretty self-explanatory, but I like to think of it in a couple of ways. First of all, compositionally. And I mean that also in more traditional classical way. Think of Beethoven's Ninth, for example. It has two sentences that are almost the same, but they end differently. So it has this feeling of first statement is actually a question, and it gets answered by the second statement, but the difference is only one note. It's like asking yourself, do I want to go home? And then replying, I do want to go home. It's using the same words, but has a totally different meaning. Another example would be my tune called Mechanism. Main lo-fi guitars in the beginning of the song do exactly this. This is also an example of how production might play a big role in this concept, because I also achieved this feeling by panning the guitars. The first guitar is panned left and the other one is panned right. Another way we can use this concept is saying the same sentence with a different instrument. This is more like question and question, honestly. But there's that conversation. This could also come in form of a delay throw. An example for this would be the Satellites from Periphery. This tune generally has this approach throughout the song in the vocals. There are gang vocals that repeat what Spencer sings. There are rhythmic delay throws. There's also the fill in the gaps style of question and answer with the gang vocals, which is the next type of question and answer. Imagine a riff like this. You have a guitar line, a rhythm guitar line for the first part of 4 bars maybe, and then the guitar goes silent. You fill in the blank with some other instruments. An example of this could be found in my tune called Flaw. Here the guitar plays the first part of the rhythm and then goes silent. The remaining space is filled with this weird synth thing. I like using question and answer concept because it is very colorful and it feels very satisfactory. You feel like there's this internal dialogue in the song. It makes you wonder what else is going to happen in the song. And that is, again, a way of riding the emotion. Another technique that we can use to achieve this sort of riding the emotion feeling is ambiguity. What I mean by ambiguity is to not reveal all your musical material at first. This could mean a couple of things. If you take it as a general concept, you can apply this to anything. You can apply it to rhythms, you can apply it to melodies, but let's take a look at it from a harmony point of view. Say I'm playing a single D note. This could be a lot of things in terms of scales, but if I add an F sharp to it, the possibilities are much smaller. It could be major, Mixolydian, Lydian, Phrygian dominant. And if I add an A on top of these two notes, which would be the fifth in the scale, it can still be those things. Now I have a major triad, I used 3 notes in the scale, but all the other notes are open. This is a great way to not reveal everything at once. You can play around with these notes first and then reveal as you go. This means you're keeping the element of surprise. One thing it has in common with the climactic approach is the delayed gratification. So yes, another good way to guide the emotion, ride the emotion. We make the listener stick around to see what's gonna happen in the end. As an example, let's have a look at my tune called Jin's Story. The beginning part of this song is a great example for this concept. The song is in C sharp, but it's because it's tuned down half step. To make things easier, let's talk Ds. So in the beginning, all we hear, the first note is the Ds. And then the next thing you see is the F sharp. So again, it could be a number of things. It makes us feel like it's a little more on the major side, which is absolutely the case. Then we hear the A, which supports the idea of it being major, D major. But then what we hear is actually a B flat. Now that changes things. It could be a harmonic major, or it could be a Phrygian dominant, or as it's called in this side of the world, Hijaz. And it does this, it keeps doing this for the first 40 seconds that we aren't completely sure of what the scale actually is. And then it gets revealed with this E flat note that is actually in Hijaz or Phrygian dominant. Another example is the song Wrinkle Maze by David Maximicic. When it begins, he almost makes sure that the song is in a major key, B major to be specific. He keeps that going until almost the 1 minute mark. Then he reveals that it's actually a Lydian by playing an F note. Alright, let's talk about our last topic, which is contrast. Contrast is also pretty straightforward. Quiet versus loud, empty versus full, fast versus slow, you get it. The cool thing about this concept is if you use it in the right spot, it boosts that element of curiosity. You showcase the same part maybe, but with totally different dynamics and instrumentation. This makes the listener, again, get curious about the next parts in the song. What I like doing is taking the same part and transforming it to something else. It could be the same melody, but the next time it comes, it's in a totally different shape. Maybe the first time it's full on, and the second time it's more quiet, maybe just with clean guitars or something. And of course, contrast is felt better when things are one after another. It's cool to have the same part. Say you have a bridge, the first time it's full on and the second time it's not. But the biggest difference happens when things happen one after another. For example, I have a full on strong verse, but right after that I hit with a clean pre-chorus, for example, which leads into this biggest chorus. We can find many examples of this. Almost all songs have some sort of a contrast. But here's one, Rule of Nines by Spiritbox. The scream part is the most intense part in the song, and then we hear a totally clean part. Contrast is a concept that we need to be a little careful when we're using it. It's awesome to have contrasts, but it's also very important to build up to a part and throughout the song. Prepping the audience for what's to come is one of the most important elements in production. For example, EDM totally depends on that. You build up to the contrast. If it wasn't for the build up, the drop wouldn't mean a thing. Okay, these are 4 of the techniques that I utilize for this concept I like to call writing the emotion. What I generally like doing in trying to assess the listener's point of view is that I take a break and listen to what I did with fresh ears. And I am a little harsh on my work generally, which isn't always the best thing, but in this case it works. I listen to it and I do jump to conclusions, and I am a little harsh. I have no fear in saying, okay, what's happening? How did we get here? Or things like, oh, I'm bored already. Because I think that is a little more realistic from the audience's point of view. Here, there's also something psychological in play as well. When you think about it, we have more attachment to our own work than some other people might have. And that might skew our viewpoint a bit. And of course, not everybody feels the same way about music. But looking at it from a producer's or a composer's point of view, the most logical thing to do would be to find a common ground, find a perfect balance that sits in the middle. And using these methods, either on their own or in combination, would help you understand how to build songs that the audience will want to stick around, both consciously and subconsciously. To sum up, we have the climactic approach, we have the question and answer, we have the ambiguity, and we have the contrast. All right, this is it for this episode. Thanks for joining in. I hope you liked this episode. You can check out my other videos for more composition and production tips and tricks. Please like and subscribe and share this video. And please let me know in the comment section if you have more tips and tricks for keeping your audience's attention. I really like hearing back from you guys. Thanks again. Stay safe. Until next time.